right, good evening, everyone, and welcome out to the Healthcare Billing Incorporated pre-race show for the Lone Star 210 here at Texas Motor Speedway. My name is Sean Griffith. I am here with Brandon Domain. Brandon, how's it going, buddy?
It is good. Just getting my bearings straight, being back in the booth after a while, after missing Wednesday's race, coming back from that break of a couple weeks. But it's real nice to be back here and calling this race with you back at my natural home track out in Texas.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's good to have you back. I know we always miss you when you're not here. But, man, this is a good race to come back on. This is probably the most important race of the year, especially for 9 of these guys.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we whittled down the field from our round of 10 down to the round of 5, and those 5 drivers that are going to be running for that championship next weekend when we get to the Atlanta Motor Speedway. And they're similar looking tracks, but they're very different in how you're going to be able to handle these things. This one is a lot more technical, especially when you get on 1 and 2, where it's a little bit more flat. 3 and 4 are going to be a lot more like Atlanta next week, so that might give us an idea of who we're going to be looking at next week. But to get there, you got to do well tonight. Make sure you get enough points. Make sure you secure yourself in those 5 spots racing for that title. So this race all too important for the rest of the field.
Definitely. I mean, if you haven't been with us before, you know, the basic league details are this. We're in week 19 of 20. This is the final round going into the championship round. So this is where we cut it off. And, man, we have a tight one on the cut line, but they pay $15 a week to get in here, $1,000 for first place, 5-person teams out here, which we'll talk about the team championship in a second. That's heating up also. So we really don't want to go too deep into this just because we want to give it plenty of time because there is so much stuff to talk about here tonight.
So much to talk about. We still got 9 drivers eligible to make it to the final 5 on points, and how everything's going to go. It's not a win and in situation here in SRN too, so it's the best 5 drivers over these 3 races are the ones that are going to be advancing to Atlanta, and then it's going to be a one and done. Whoever has the best finish there on the individual side and the team side going to be walking away with that championship money.
Yeah, but we still have some money going out here tonight as well. We've got $45 for first place, $30 for second, and then $15 to third, fourth, and fifth. And it doesn't look like there's going to be a ton of people here tonight since we're this late in the season. A lot of these drivers have already been eliminated, so a lot of them have chosen, hey, you know what, we're good to go. But I'd come back for this kind of money.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you take the money out of it, you get a little bit more experience going forward for next season after we get our holiday break out of the way and get ready for the first of 2022 to start in those 1 of 2 seasons that we'll have there for SRN. But yeah, looking at a field of about 22 drivers tonight, more than we saw at this point last year. So seeing that number still staying up decently here, and that's going to make it a little bit more interesting when it comes to those point positions.
No, definitely. Now the season payouts are where it's at. I mean, that's where the big money is. The $1,000 for first place. I mean, seriously, name 10 other leagues that do this on iRacing.
I got nothing. I know the Coke Series has that $300,000, and other than that, they're the professionals. Other than that, I can't name one. So the money definitely good here. You see that $1,000 for first, $600, $350, $200, and $125 for those guys that are going to be advancing. And the 5 that fall short for that race in Atlanta, they'll be running for 3 payout positions as well, with $175 and $50 for the top 3 out of those 5 drivers that fall just short of the championship race.
So all sorts of fun stuff out there, especially money-wise. But, you know, again, we'll talk about the team championship in a second, but a sponsor has jumped up and they've said, you know what, we want a part of this too. And so JBR Not the Fire Racing, one of their sponsors, is throwing together the JBR Challenge. So it's brought to you by Glitch Energy, the True Gamer. And I got to tell you, Brandon, I ordered some of this stuff earlier this week. I cannot wait for it.
It's got a good name from it, from everything that I've heard. Everything is great with Glitch, and I know JBR, they partner with a whole lot of different companies, and it seems like they're all good quality companies as well, so they do a great job there. So I keep my eye out on this, and I was close to getting this on Thursday. I would have been excited for that. I was only a couple spots away from doing that one myself, but if you're not lucky enough to be the top non-playoff finisher tonight, you can always go to glitchenergy.com, use the promo code JBR10 on your order, and save a little bit of money.
Oh, definitely save that money because, yeah, I mean, it's really sounding stuff. I know they've got these great flavor words called fruits. It tastes like fruit. You can't use that name because, you know, it's great marketing, but they got that bubble gum, not candy. They got all sorts of flavors. That just sounds let everybody know how it is when he gets here a little bit this week. Next week I'll be able to tell you exactly how the flavors are.
Yeah, and hey, as a supplement guy myself, you know, with energy or protein or anything like that, like, it's always good seeing all these different flavors. You can always find something for everybody, and I know they'll have that full list of them there on glitchenergy.com.
Definitely, so go check them out. But another place you need to go is beerstreetjournal.com, where this week we've got another beer of the week. This week's Beer Street Journal Beer of the Week comes out of the world-famous Guinness family, so you know it's going to be good. With the holidays fast approaching, chocolate and mint are going to be two of the flavors on most people's lists. Well, Guinness decided to combine those flavors together and age them in Kentucky bourbon barrels to make Guinness Chocolate Mint Stout. Now, some people might not be fans of chocolate alcoholic beverages, but the way the chocolate and the mint interact with the bourbon character leads to something really special. It's the perfect beer to sip on after a solid meal with family and friends over the holidays. But if you're still not a fan, you might want to check out Guinness's Gingerbread Stout, which is also making its return this year. So don't miss out on Guinness Chocolate Mint Stout, available for a limited time. The Beer Street Journal Beer of the Week is sponsored by BeerStreetJournal.com, the leading online publication for craft beer reviews. Go to BeerStreetJournal.com to find your next great beer. And as always, you must be 21 to enjoy, and please drink responsibly. Yes, definitely please drink responsibly. It is 10.8% alcohol, but anything made by Guinness, I mean, how can you go wrong with that?
No, that is a quality name in the beer industry, and with good reason. They put together so many good things there, and definitely interested in this one. Not normally a big chocolate fan when it comes to beer, but you know, it's Guinness. You got to try it, and aged in Kentucky bourbon barrels, it just gives you even more reason. And at 10.8%, even if you don't like it, you'll still probably like it by the end of that thing.
Exactly. So definitely go to BeerStreetJournal.com to find that beer of the week, find that next great beer, and to support our sponsor, Beer Street Journal. So we appreciate them. And now let's move on. I think practice is wrapping up, so we'll get through in just a second here. We do have the team championship going on, and it's a tight little battle there on the right side of the screen.
Yeah, very, very tight, and that is not surprising at all. As you look at Indianapolis, you look at Phoenix, already in the books as we get ready to close out this round of 4 on the team side. Just 10 points separating Tank Racing and Murray Reedy Motorsports. That's the one that we were definitely expecting to be very similar to what we're seeing. Next Level and Revved Racing, though, that one's still up for grabs as well in that 1-4 matchup.
Definitely. Let's check those out here really quickly. The Next Level versus Rev matchup. While our drivers are out there, they will start qualifying shortly, and we'll go check them out. But Next Level holding a nice 44-point advantage here.
Yeah, very good point advantage on their side right now. That's going to be a little bit difficult to make up, especially when they have the numbers game on their side. It's the top 3 scoring drivers, but Next Level, they've got that full field of 5. Revved Racing not having that same amount of drivers, so their margin of error a whole lot smaller.
I will say I don't see Landon Lacey out there for Next Level. He has missed the last couple of weeks as well, so looks like it'll be 4 versus 3 here, but again, no margin of error for Rev Racing. But over on the other side, Tank Racing versus Murray Reedy Motorsports, both of them have 5 drivers.
Both of them have 5 drivers, and both these teams have just been loaded with guys that are putting together quality finishes. And you look at the last race alone a couple of weeks ago at Phoenix, every single one of these 6 scoring drivers, 3 on each side, were inside the top 11. So that just goes to show that they are stepping up in a big way in this team championship battle. They also got a lot of drivers up for the individual side of the playoffs as well, so just even more added motivation to really deliver for their teams.
Well, let's drive out there to the track right now, and we got Joshua Balliet on the track doing his qualifying laps as we speak.
Yeah, Joshua Balliet, you see it there. He's 2 points above the cut line. This is going to be a tight race for him on a track that, yeah, we're only going to have 22 drivers, but there's still enough of a margin that you can fall in or out of those Championship 5 drivers. It could go a long way based on where you start in this race. If we see early trouble around this racetrack with these cold tires, real easy to get loose in 3 and 4. So you want to make sure you're out of any trouble. As we see Balliet working his way around. He was pretty quick in practice, one of the 5 fastest. See if he can translate that into qualifying time.
Yeah, we saw that getting loose off of turn 4 quite a bit, especially right after pit stops in the Xfinity Series. We saw a couple of playoff drivers going through the infield to try to save those cars.
Yeah, I had a couple of those happen right in front of me, and that was a nice little Code Brown moment there each time. But so Valiant working his way around, sitting in the third position provisionally, but he's still working on that second lap with everybody going right now. But he enters this race in fourth. He's tied with his teammate Reese Schaefer for the fourth and fifth positions as we enter this race tonight.
Let's see where he ends up on the board. It looks like he will stay there in that third position for the time being, and we'll be waiting to see any of these other playoff drivers. But while we're waiting on them, let's check out and see those playoff standings as they sit right now.
Yeah, and it's still very close for everybody. Every single driver here, with the exception of Landon Lacey, is going to still have a shot of being in, or on the flip side, a shot of being out at the end of this race. Dalton Tucker currently leading the way at 3,083 points, but that's only 16 points clear of James Holtzer, who's a surprising driver behind the cut line coming into this, our regular season champion. You got Scott Healy, Timothy Latham, Valiant, and Reese Schaefer that are currently in. Holtzer, Berger, Kalal, and Duke currently finding themselves on the way out, but all within 14 points.
Well, here's the good news and the bad news. 14 points is not that much to make up overall. However, the bad news is we only have 22 drivers on the track. And so if each position is only 1 point, then that means you're going to have to really hope that those guys in the green have a bad night and the guys in the yellow have a good night in order to see a lot of movement here.
Yeah, and if we stay at 22 drivers, which does seem that is where we're going to be staying, you're looking at a maximum of 28 points that can be the difference. If you go out there and win, you take the max points, but you also get the bonus points for leading a lap, leading the most laps, a bonus point for the clean driving with 0 incident points, and also 3 bonus points added on for winning the race. So you're looking at a 28-point gap that can happen there. 14 points is 50% of that. It's not a big ask to make up those 14 points or lose 16 points in this kind of a situation.
Oh, yeah. If Dalton Tucker or Scott Healy get into trouble really early, it is going to be tough for them to hold those positions, even with them having that big of an advantage, a 16 and a 14-point advantage, respectively. It's going to be tough for them to do that.
Very tough. And the other thing that kind of catches my eye here is we've spent all season long, and I don't want this to sound like a negative towards them, we spent all season long talking about how Next Level could be that team that you're looking at 4 or 5 drivers make the championship 5 with how well they were doing. And look at this right now. We're seeing 4 different teams represented. The team with multiple drivers is Tank Racing, who's really developed well as this season's gone along. They've gotten better every single week, every single month. They've just gotten better and better, gelled as a team. And they're really stepping up when it matters most right now with 2 drivers, Valiant and Schaefer, in, and Next Level just sitting there with 1 driver currently in.
Yeah, and that kind of brings us back to that team aspect of the whole thing. Even if your team is eliminated right now, just having that many people in there all working together is a huge benefit to you.
It is absolutely massive, and you just get a lot more information out there. So now we take a look at Seth Berger, who's running 7th, another one of those Tank Racing drivers, one of the 3 still eligible for the Championship 5. He enters this race 7 points out as he's on his warm-up lap right now, trying to get all that momentum going. It looks like we're starting to see a lot more drivers head out onto the racetrack, though. Yeah,
for whatever reason, these drivers like to wait until the very last moment to get out there and do their lap. So we will kind of jump through them a little bit here. Let's head over to Scott Kalal and see what he's up to.
Scott Kalal also on his warm-up lap right now. He was the fastest in practice. Now, again, that could have a little bit of draft enabling involved, but he ran a 29.544, the top time in practice here that just ended a moment ago. And for Kalal, he's sitting 9 points out, entering this race in 8th.
Yeah, and looking to see if any of our other playoff drivers. You got David Duke out there right now. His best finish of the season was 2nd place. He's led 55 laps, so he's not, he knows how to lead the race. He just hasn't finished in first just yet, but he's 14 points below the cut. He's the last one on the list, basically, so he's going to have a massive night in that minivan vacations car.
And we were talking about the benefit of if you have teammates and your teams are in the team side of things still, how much of a benefit that is. He's the lone playoff driver still in the running right now whose team is not still running for the team championship. And so that kind of shows the flip side of it. And R&D does a great job working together. They're a very strong team in how they interact with each other. So it might not even be that much of a difference, but it is significant enough that there's that little bit less pressure on the team to really step up there and try to drive it home a little bit farther.
Next up, we got Timothy Latham out there on the track in that beautiful number 5 car. Sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's red. You just never know what you're going to get out of him, but you do know that he's got 2 wins on the season. He's led 70 laps, and he is above the cut right now, and he is very good at getting out front and staying out front.
Very much so, and especially when it comes to these mile-and-a-half racetracks, that is kind of a strong suit there for Latham. And he enters this race, we talk about 3rd place in the point standings, but that's only good for a 4-point gap. And speaking of a point gap, here's James Holtzer, regular season champion after those first 13 races, but he comes into this 6th place, 2 points out.
Yeah, weird position for him to be in, to be 2 points outside the cut, and especially since he's going to be fighting against his teammate Timothy Latham, basically, to get back inside the cut. But another guy he's fighting against here is Reese Schaefer from Tank Racing, who he's 2 points above the cut. Reese Schaefer and his teammate Joshua Balliet are the two that are going to be fighting hardest to stay above that line.
Yeah, they are our bubble drivers as they're tied at the same amount of points, 3,069. Those 2 points clear as Schaefer is now, that just put him up 4th on the provisional grid right now at 29.77. So a good lap for Schaefer. We actually got playoff drivers 1, 2, 3, 4 right now as we continue with qualifying.
Yeah, Dalton Tucker, who is currently the playoff points leader. Only 1 win on the season, but that's all it takes. But he's led 234 laps on the season. He has been out front so much this season that could be 5 or 6 wins if he just had a little bit of things fall his way.
Yeah, this is one of those guys that he was showing so much speed for so long, and that win wasn't too long ago even. And so it was just kind of one of those matter of time until you saw that 73 in victory lane. He got real hot as this playoff started too, and he finally got into victory lane. He's just been super strong as this postseason started. And speaking of super strong, since the postseason started, the defending champion Scott Healy in that 64, 3 wins, all of them in the last handful of weeks, with a couple weeks left in the regular season to now, putting those wins together, and he's showing that form that led him to a championship, oh, by the way, right here in Texas last season.
That's right. He knows how to lead here. He knows how to win here. This is shaping up really, really good for him with having a little bit of a gap there on the cut line. So he's got 14 points on that. Plus, he's here at this amazing track that he loves so much.
Yeah, and that's going to be a good feeling for him to revisit the track where he won the title last season, but he's not going to be sitting on the pole. That's going to be James Holtzer, the man that's the first one out, going to be leading the field to green here tonight at the Lone Star 210.
He is so tough when he gets out front. I mean, it is just so it's not so much that it's hard to catch him, it is hard to pass him. He is so good at hitting his marks when he's under pressure.
Yeah, and that's his biggest thing, and it's not even – there's some guys that are hard to pass because they throw blocks. They do all these things. Holtzer's hard to pass because he doesn't make mistakes, and you have to force the issue on him. You have to get him uncomfortable, and that's hard to do because he's somebody that's very comfortable, knows where to hit those marks every single time. It's tough to get by him, but there's going to be a whole lot of guys with a lot of pressure on him tonight trying to do so. You see those 2 other yellow numbers right next to him at the start.
That's right. Seth Berger and Scott Kalal coming in 2nd and 3rd, so both of them pushing hard to get inside that cut. But Reese Schaefer already inside the cut by that 2 points, so he's going to be up there, but he's going to be up there more to defend than to necessarily go out and win the race.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough position there tonight for Reese Schaefer. A lot of pressure on him. No pressure on row 3 as we're going to have Jordan Sailors and Austin Reedy starting 5th and 6th. They're out of the playoff picture entirely at this point. And then 2 drivers that are going to be in the top 5 entering tonight are going to be starting on row 4 with the defending champion Scott Healy in the 64 in 7th and Joshua Balliet in 4th place. He'll be starting 8th tonight.
Really, I think that if Dalton Tucker in 9th just kind of sits right where he is right there, don't get damaged, don't put yourself at risk or anything like that. I think 9th or 10th place for him will be enough to get him in. Dean Brummett there in 10th, not the season that he wanted to have this season, but he could pop off a win at any moment and spoil the day.
Absolutely, and he's very good at tracks like this. Finished second here last season. Row 6 going to be Max Service, one of our bright stars from last year in terms of that Tier 2 championship, really kind of putting things together at the end of last season. Carried over well. He'll be starting in 11th. Kyle Benson, one of our stronger rookies here this season, is going to be starting in 12th.
All right, Brandon, so we are about to get it going here, and this is really, oh man, this is going to be such a great race. We've had 2 great races here already with the trucks and Xfinity, but who you got?
You know what? I'm going to take the easy one here on this, and part of it is it's been a couple weeks since I've been up here, but I'm going to go with the man that had the success last year. You can't look past the 64 of Scott Healy. He'll be starting in 7th. He knows how to get around here on a long race. The race last season had no cautions. I think that's going to be similar tonight.
I'm a little angry. You stole my pick, and so because of that, I'm going to have to play defense here. I'm going to have to play somebody else. So I'm going to go with Timothy Latham back here in 16th position. Yes, he starts back here, but he is one of those that he can move up just methodically throughout the race and be there at the end.
Not a bad pick, even though he's starting far back. That might surprise some people, but that is his style of racing on these long races like tonight.
Well, we are about to get this thing started. 140 laps here at Texas Motor Speedway. Let's get it going. James Holtzer takes off on the outside. Seth Berger with a great run on that green flag.
A really good run on the outside there for Seth Berger. And the question's going to be, how hard do these guys want to push these ice-cold tires, getting around 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4 on this first lap. Looks like Berger wanted to be a little bit more cautious there on the outside, a little bit slicker when you get into the marbles and things like that, up on those higher grooves. And Holtz are pulling away by a couple car lengths early as they work through 3 and 4. A little bit of a slip by Jordan Sailors. It's Scott Healy around, Max Service around it out of 4. Gabriel Ellison as well. No caution.
Yes,
there it is. There's the caution.
Yellow. Oh, wow, and he kind of goes for a ride there. Hopefully that car is okay. I don't see a lot of damage there.
No, but the way that car was bouncing and moving around, that makes me a little nervous to see if there's any internal damage that got triggered through iRacing on that car. I've had that happen before, but looks like everything's moving pretty well there. Don't see him kind of panicking and moving towards pit road, so it looks like he might be all right, but a huge moment here on the very first lap of the Lone Star 210.
Yeah, Jordan Sailors just gets loose, just like we were talking about earlier. It is very easy to do that. And I'm not sure anybody even hit Scott Healy there. I think he was just trying to stay out of the way. Let's go back and take a look from his point of view here.
This might have just been a little bit of an accordion effect where you kind of have to roll out of it, kind of yanked it. He might have got a little nudge there from the 73 Dalton Tucker as everybody kind of checked up there to avoid Jordan Sailors. And also saw Max Service go sideways. I believe that was David Duke that went through the pit road to avoid this. But I think despite all this that happened here, I don't think anybody's really got much damage.
No, I was just looking at Dalton Tucker as he drove by, too. I didn't see a ton of damage from him either. We will look at it from his point of view also.
And this is the trouble that you have on these restarts. Everybody's stacked up so tight. You couldn't really tell that the 55 was having a problem. You can kind of see that left front just kind of flash, just that little bit getting sideways. And by the time Scott Healy in the 64 had to check up, there was really nowhere that Dalton Tucker could go.
Well, Scott Healy decided to jump into the pits just to kind of see if his car was okay and everything. Spent about 9 seconds in the pits, and so if there was any damage, it looks like he got it repaired very, very quickly, which is great. Gabriel Ellison was in there for about 11 seconds getting some work done. Max Service seems like he was the one that got the most out of that. He is still in pit road. Now he gets out of there.
Yeah, and I don't mind that call of everybody that went in just to check. You're going to be starting near the back anyway. You may as well go in there, get that reassurance that everything's going to be all right. Still see a little bit of left rear damage here on that 81 for Max Service, and that might be a factor as we go forward in the team side of things as well, with Tank in that close battle with Murray Reedy trying to hold on to that lead that they have going into this one. But we got a long, long way to go still here in this race.
Yes, we do. Maybe under the next caution, if there is another caution, we'll bring Scott Healy up and we'll ask him what really happened there and how he's feeling about this race. But we are 1 to green, so we don't want to bug them while they're about to get restarted. But you're going to have Scott Claw on the inside, James Holtzer on the outside.
Yeah, Kowal getting the, I believe Holtzer taking the outside, actually. He is going to be the race leader. Opting to take the outside, that's a little bit interesting, actually, because normally the inside line, really the optimal line here at Texas. Holtzer might be hoping that he just gets that jump and can still take that inside and get that going. But real interesting behind him is, you're going to have Scott Kowal in second and obviously on the inside. But then you got those two drivers that are fighting for positions right around Holtzer. That's going to be Berger and Schaefer making up row 2.
Yeah, so the top 3 drivers outside the cut currently. And so definitely doing what they're supposed to do. Now they have to see what everybody else does. Scott Healy falling all the way down to 18th place back here. So so definitely he is behind the 8 ball as we speak. But again, 136 more laps to go. We got plenty of time for him to catch up.
Oh, without question. And this is one of those races, the strategy I had on Thursday, just stay out of trouble, keep that car clean, and you'll pick up those positions. That's going to be what all these guys have to do at this point forward.
We do get restarted. James Holtzer gets a great jump there on the outside. He is going to clear Scott Kowal on the inside.
He's going to clear him and then some. Going to be about a 4-car length at edge over the 23 and the 17 as they're going to be side by side going through 1 and 2. See if we can keep it straighter this time through 3 and 4 as we make our way down the back straightaway. Still side by side for second, and that's a great sight for James Holtzer.
Oh, yeah, he loves it when they are fighting so hard back there that he can just kind of pull away and not damage his tires as much. And again, that's what we were talking about really earlier was once he gets out front, he is just so hard to catch because he uses all this to his advantage.
Yeah, one of the smarter drivers out there when it comes to just knowing what everybody's doing around him, how hard he needs to push his equipment, when he needs to back off it, just real intelligent. The way that he races each race, just everything changes, and he just knows how to adjust to them. As speaking of adjusting, we're looking at some guys that are having to adjust how they attack this race now after that early caution, kind of getting resettled in here. You see Seth Berger there sitting in the 3rd position. Scott Kowal is falling back to the 5th spot. But one thing you're noticing is there's a lot of green numbers there still inside the top 10. 4 of our 5 drivers that entered this race in the top 5 in points, all still in the top 10 here in the race.
Yeah, Austin Reedy making a great run up there, up in 4th position already. So he is kind of moving up the list. Our biggest mover so far, Craig Lautenschlager, started off in the 20th position. He is already up to 12th after only 8 laps.
That's a big run for him for sure. Know that starting in 20th, probably sitting on the outside, so he might have had a good line getting away from all that trouble coming out of turn 4 on lap 1. He put that run to good use sitting there up in 12th already.
Yeah, he is definitely moving. Timothy Latham has moved up 7 positions from the start. So even though he started back in 16th position, just had a couple of bad qualifying laps, he is already on the move into the top 10.
That great run, no surprise there, seeing Latham making his way up. Maybe a little bit surprising how quickly he's done it, though. Normally he likes picking them off one by one. He was taking off some big chunks there. Part of that probably from that early caution. But speaking of picking up some chunks here, that lead interval has been cut down significantly by Reese Schaefer and Austin Reedy. Reedy taking a look to the inside for second as they both close in on James Holtzer.
Yeah, Reedy seems like he's going to get that spot very quickly, and Reese Schaefer's just going to try to fall back in the line so he doesn't lose any more time.
And that's the smart way around here. It's real easy to kind of get freight trained, and you get real frustrated if you're stuck on the inside or stuck on the outside and everybody's lined up on the opposite of you. Happened to me on Thursday a couple times. You fall back 5-6 positions pretty quickly, and you really feel like you're abusing your tires much more than you wanted to, being in a suboptimal line that you really want to be in. So getting into that straight line early, sorting it out, just a real good decision there from Reese Schaefer.
Scott Kowal has fallen all the way back to 6th position. It just seems like he's trying to get his way back in this thing, but it just seems like he kind of lost his way around the track for a little bit there.
Yeah, and I think part of that too was similar to what we were just talking about. You get caught in the wrong line, and it's hard to kind of find that hole to kind of fall back into and get back in line with everybody else. I think that kind of happened to him a little bit on that restart, but still sitting in 6th, no real problems for him there. Still ahead of 4 of those 5 drivers that are going to be inside the cut entering this race.
Going back all the way to the back to 21st position, David Duke back here all by his lonesome. I'm trying to see if he has any damage. It does not look like he's got any damage. I'm not really sure what he's doing this far back.
I mean, that car does look clean. Never know if maybe he did a little damage repair and had some front damage, maybe under power or off power just a little bit. Or just deciding that this is going to be a long race. He's just kind of settling in, conserving his stuff, maybe thinking that he can conserve enough fuel to turn this into a race where he can take one fewer stop than everybody else.
You know what? That is possible. In the YouTube chat, it says Duke will clutch it from Chad Wampler. And so maybe, just maybe, he is playing that strategy.
Yeah, and you're looking at about 40 to 45 laps on the fuel window here as we run these modified fuel tanks where it's 13 gallons as opposed to the 18 that you'll see in real life. So it's a shorter fuel window, 40 to 45 laps in a 140 lap race. That's pushing it if you're going to be able to make it on 3 stops. So odds are this could be a 4-stop race for a lot of the guys up front, really having to be heavy on the throttle. If you conserve your stuff with that early caution, shaving off a couple laps there, possibly you might be able to save one fewer pit stop.
Well, another driver definitely on the move, Scott Healy. He restarted this race in 18th position after being involved in that first incident. And so he has made his way back up to 13th. So he is definitely wanting to get back up to this front pack.
And this is going to be a way different race than what he had to deal with last time we were here, where he won the championship. He led the most laps, led over half the race en route to winning the race and winning the title at Texas last season. This time he's going to have to come from behind early after being near the very last position after that early caution, but still picking them off one by one. Still a long way to go, and this is the guy that we always talk about, it very calm and very collected behind the wheel, and I don't think that really bothered him too much that he's going to have to work his way through.
I'm being told by our investigators in the YouTube chat that David Duke got a speeding penalty during the yellow flag, so that could be why he's back. Head back up front here to take a look and see where James Holtzer is. He is still up in the lead. 2/10 of a second lead over Austin Reed. You see him kind of blink out just a little bit. That's kind of caused some havoc for him in the past few weeks. So he's been called out for that blinking and has actually gotten some EOL penalties because of that blinking. And so he's done everything he can possibly do. He sent me a message a little bit earlier this week. He's changed out just about everything on his computer. He's checked his internet, all that stuff. But for whatever reason, that blinking could still be there.
Yeah, and we talk about how it's a surprise to see him outside of the cut line entering this race, and part of the reason why he is because of those connection issues. And that's one of those things that sometimes it's out of your control, sometimes it's something that you can maybe fix. He's done a whole lot of different things out there trying to figure out what's going on, how he can repair that. And obviously every now and then that issue does still show up, and that's something that's got to be very concerning if that keeps going.
Yeah, I mean, he's seemed pretty solid in these last couple of laps. We've only seen it happen once, I think, so we will kind of keep an eye on that. But just going back through the pack a little bit, Dean Brummett up a couple spots already. He is up in 8th position, and he said it on the pre-show, just not the season that he was looking for.
No, it just never seemed like he can get his footing. Every time he started making some forward progress, something would happen around him and just kind of knock him back. Farther down either the point standings or inside the running order within a race. And those kind of seasons just happen to some people, and then this time it was Dean Brummett's turn to kind of have one of those hard luck seasons. Still made the playoffs, still had a strong season despite everything that was going on around him. But you know that he wanted more out of this season, but can still put together a strong run. Runner-up here at Texas last season, and looking to do the same, maybe get some momentum going for next season.
Yeah, he is one of the winningest drivers in Speed Racing Network history. And so kind of a surprise to not see him in the playoffs this season, but I am sure he will be back in no time.
Yeah, I have no doubt that we'll see him in victory lane at some point here pretty soon as we get ready to close out this season. Head to next season. I think maybe just that little bit of a recharge, getting a fresh start might be what he needs here going forward.
Oh yeah, everybody's looking forward to Speed Racing Network Season 3, and I will let you know that we are planning on having some of the details next week during our championship week, and we'll hopefully be releasing some of those during the broadcast. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Don't miss one of our broadcasts because you might miss some important changes.
Yeah, heard there might have been a hint here or there at some of the things that are coming up over the broadcast this past week on our truck and Xfinity races. So always keep an eye out for our broadcasts here. You never know when you're going to find out some news on the next season, maybe ahead of time. But as speaking of ahead of time, well ahead of everybody else right now, pulling away. James Holtzer starting to inch forward that little bit, though a good run out for that time from Austin Reedy, trying to close that back in, but Holtzer just looking real strong out in front.
I will happily give one hint about next season, and that is that I beat Jason Tripp last season in the All-Star race, and we are going to have another All-Star race, so he has his shot to try to take the title back.
That All-Star race, a whole lot of fun. One of the cooler broadcasts we had with all the interactivity in it, with everybody going through the draft and all the teams getting sorted out. Everybody kind of had their spotlight there on that broadcast, and it was a great All-Star race with the ARCA cars at Indianapolis. That was kind of a twist for a lot of people, and had a good time out there running in the top 10. I'll brag on myself a little bit there in the All-Star race, but yeah, can't wait to see that again next year, so I'm excited to hear that All-Star race is back.
I was not in the top 10, but I was concerned about one car and one car only, and that was that Jason Tripp car. And so, yeah, we got into it, a little bit on the track and stuff like that. Nice little friendly rivalry between me and the owner of Speed Racing Network.
Friendly, okay. I wasn't sure sometimes, but no, I'm just kidding. But it was great hearing some of the chatter during that race and before and after even, and still to this day hearing some of the chatter between y'all two. Always a fun little friendly rivalry there.
Oh yeah, we have a great time out here. If you can't have fun iRacing, you are not doing iRacing right.
Oh, ain't that the truth? And I know it gets frustrating for some guys sometimes, but man, we're just out here. I know it's a lot of people take this seriously, but in the end, it's a game. It's a simulator, however you want to call it. That we're not running for the $300,000. We're not doing this for a career. Just a good way to get away from some of the stuff that happens in real life, and have this great hobby, this great thing to just do. So I'm with you 100%. Just have fun with it, and it makes it a whole lot better.
Got a good battle for the second spot right here. Austin Reedy on the outside, Reese Schaefer on the inside. Seth Berger doing a little bit of pushing there on Reese Schaefer, trying to push him forward and hopefully go through that hole himself.
Yeah, and I think that's going to look pretty good, seeing those two teammates working nose to tail there, trying to make that inside line. It's a little bit tougher to make that pass on the inside because you really got to kind of pin it down coming out of turn 2. The outside gets a good run coming off that turn down the back straightaway, and there's a good look at it as Austin Reedy just carrying so much more momentum off turn 2, really able to kind of free up that car, run it up towards the wall, be a little bit better, smoother coming out of that turn, and really started to pull away there after getting clear from Seth Berger there in the 77. Now try to get that spot back from Reese Schaefer. But one thing I'm kind of curious about with Reedy in that one is we saw him be real aggressive making his way through the pack at the start of this run. I'm curious at this point in the run how much tire life he has left compared to everybody else.
Yeah, great question. There's only one way to find out, and that is when they pit. So one driver I do want to point out, Nick Gowen, here in the 88. He started the race in 19th position. He has worked his way forward 12 spots now. And so he is up in his 7th position, and he does not look to be holding back at all.
No, not at all. Also not holding back that 3-wide race that we just saw kind of clear up there a minute ago. That caught me way off guard as you were talking about Nick. But Nick, somebody that really came on strong the second half of last season in the Xfinity Series. And we were kind of waiting for that traction to happen again for him in that 88 this season. And it really seemed like it did. Maybe about midway through the season, just kind of really started to click in these Cup cars and started kind of putting that together. Came a little bit too little too late there in that run, trying to advance to the round of 10. Fell short of that, but still a very solid season for Nick in the 88.
Definitely, and he's one of those drivers that give him another season, maybe 2 seasons, and he is not only going to be in victory lane. I mean, he's been in victory lane before, but you're going to see a championship next to him.
I would definitely agree with that. He won the Tier 2 championship in the Xfinity Series last season. Had a couple race wins during the playoff, even as a non-playoff driver. Somebody that definitely knows how to put that car in victory lane. I think part of it is, you go from Xfinity, whether you go from trucks to Xfinity or Xfinity to Cup, the transition is just so different. Those Xfinity cars are really kind of their own animal compared to anything else that gets run in NASCAR. And I think that transition takes a little bit of time. You can practice it all you want, but getting into these longer races that you don't typically see in fixed setups on the official iRacing servers, that's a big transition. It caught me off guard personally. I know that's a common thing. So I think that maybe was what happened there with Nick this season, just kind of getting a few weeks to really build that momentum.
Well, you said that he won the Tier 2 championship last season. He is currently in the lead of the Tier 2 championship this season as well. So definitely he knows how to be up in the lead. It's just if we keep him in the playoffs, I have a feeling he is going to be dominant.
Without question, great team around him as well. A lot of experience and a lot of winning drivers around him at next level as he moves into that 6th position, getting around Scott Kalal. And we're seeing now 4 drivers not even inside the 10 playoff driver field here within the top 10 in this race. So that's going to add some separation here when it comes to the point standings for some of these guys like James Holtzer, Seth Berger, and Scott Kalal, who are currently in that outside of the cut line currently, trying to pick up some spots, and they've got a lot of separation now going between them and some of these guys like Dalton Tucker and Timothy Latham.
Yeah, keying in here on Reese Schaefer up here in second. So still 0.6 of a second between him and James Holtzer, but his best finish of the season was 3rd place at Richmond and Daytona. And Daytona's kind of that wild card, but Richmond, that is one of those races where you really have to wheel it.
Oh, yeah. If you get a top 3 finish at Richmond, you put in a solid night's effort for sure. And that is a driver racetrack and will really show you where some talent is. So Reese Schaefer being up there, it shows what everybody that's been watching all season long knows. That's a car that can be up in front and really put together some solid finishes. It is no surprise to see him sitting inside the top 5 entering this race and possibly being in the Championship 5 by the time we get to Atlanta after tonight's race.
Going back a little ways, a good battle heating up here. Emerson Ardon in the 57. He is looking at Craig Loudenslager right in front of him there. Now Emerson, again, one of those drivers from Tank Racing who had a good season, but not by his own his own expectations, I don't think. I really think that he wanted to go a little bit further in this season, but he is here every single week. He is always putting his car in the right positions, and right now he's just kind of learning a little bit more and more for next season.
Yeah, and this is something that I can kind of speak with personal knowledge in a way. I think he's kind of doing something similar to where I'm at too, and that's just kind of finding that balance between how much you want to conserve your equipment and how aggressive. Whoa, as Timothy Latham coming down the pit road right in front of him. Also looks like Gabriel Ellison as well, so pit stop starting already on lap number 37, little sooner than I was expecting. As we see those 2 next level drivers making their way through. I think I saw somebody else coming in. That might have been
Gabriel Ellison.
Thinking even farther behind that. There we go. Bobby Anderson in the 18. Couldn't quite tell who that was on that first shot, but yeah, so 3 drivers on lap 37 making this first pit stop.
Well, while they are pitting, James Holtzer back out there, still 0.7 of a second, so he hasn't really been able to pull away. Not that he really wants to at this point. I think that if he was going to pull away even more, I think he'd be damaging those tires.
Yeah, and this is a track that it kind of jumps up at you when those tires go away. Doing a full tire test run, I can kind of sit there and be like around the first 20 laps or so, kind of runs similar to what you would want to be running early in a run. It's a little bit slower, obviously. You're not going to be able to hold that same pace. But once you got about midway through that tire run, you really start losing that grip. You really have to start kind of changing your entry point, changing the line that you run a little bit, just to kind of get more comfortable out there and build some more speed on exit especially. So the second half of the tire run is really where you kind of start to feel the effects of it. If you really abuse them early, that's just going to be a nightmare scenario, and I think he's done a great job of just conserving those tires and making sure that he kept them under him as he got to the later point in this run. And this first run of 4 that we're looking at really in this race, that's going to be one of those things that this is all about researching what you're going to need and what you're going to expect on these last 3 stints if this thing stays green the rest of the way.
Yeah, and James Holtzer, no stranger to being up front. 5 wins on the season already this season, so one of the best seasons in Speed Racing Network history from any of the R3 series.
Yeah, just an incredible season that he's had, and You know, you look at, we haven't seen Landon Lacey here the past couple of weeks, but those two just stringing together almost half of the wins here this season to this point. Just unbelievable what they were both doing there. And to see that, we're looking at a possibility that neither of those two make it. Landon Lacey already eliminated. James Holtzer currently on the outside looking in, but leading this race, doing exactly what he needs to do to make sure that he forces his way into that top 5. A win would clinch his entry into that championship race.
Well, don't look now. Scott Healy, who restarted this spot after that first incident, has moved his way all the way up into the top 5. So he has just an incredibly fast car, and he is still not done yet. He is working to get up to 4th position with Austin Reedy there. He's working to get up towards him.
Yeah, and a lot of times when we see something like this where one car is so much faster, you almost kind of think, all right, he's got fresher tires. He does because he made that pit stop, but at the same time, that was on lap 2. So it's not like there's any significant difference here in the tires that he has compared to anybody else. So what we're seeing is that the 64 might just be the fastest car out on the track, as he's going to make his way to pit road on lap number 43. So we're seeing these guys really starting to commit their way to a 3-stop race, turning this thing into 4 stints.
Yeah, Scott Healy actually did not take tires on that first pit stop. He was not in long enough to take any tires, not even right side. So he still was on the original set as he takes his pit stop. James Holtzer, now the question is when?
And this might be one of those things, if he can stretch this out, granted we had that caution, that's going to add a couple of laps on that fuel window. Oh, sideways for Kyle Benson. He's going to get into that wall in pit road. Doesn't look like he hit it too hard, but that might be enough to maybe affect the power unit there just a bit in that engine.
Oh, man. Just that, it's disappointing. I can't say too much about pit road trouble because I get into it myself. There's video of it. But James Holtzer coming in as well.
Yeah, James Holtzer making his way in. Reese Schaefer making his way in. So our 2 race leaders entering pit road. And they're going to be nose to tail making their way down. Just a very short gap, but that's going to cycle the lead to Seth Berger. And this is huge for Seth. He's going to pick up that bonus point if he stays out here. Actually, he did already cross the line ahead, so he does have that bonus point now. He can come in, but that is a huge point for that 77.
Yeah, and some of these drivers, they're going to time this thing out so that they can get that bonus point. And they're going to have to, because some of these those bonus points we've seen in – oh, wow, Seth gets very, very sideways there.
I was just about to say that was a real aggressive line that he took getting into pit road. He kind of broke real late to make that entry, and that'll happen to you. You get on those brakes a little too aggressive, that back end's going to want to kick out on you. As Dean Brummett picks up the race lead, sounds like he'll be coming in this time, though. He's put himself into a spot, though, where he might be able to conserve enough to cut a pit stop out the rest of the way.
Yeah, so 46, then 92. Oh, it's going to be close, man. Because that'd be 133, right?
Yeah, you're going to have to do a whole lot of conserving to do that.
That'd be 138. I apologize, 138.
Yeah, so it's going to be close. Now, keep in mind, we did have that caution. That's going to take 4 laps, so you're looking at maybe 2 green flag lap difference. So that's going to be something that you're going to have to reach. But if you're willing to make that sacrifice and gamble on this race staying green the rest of the way, you can pull it off and save that time on pit road.
And just looking at the times down pit lane, and that's one of the most fun things for me to look at, just because it really shows who gets into their box perfectly, who gets down pit lane absolutely perfectly. The best time out there, James Holtzer with a 41.92. Next best, about 42.5. So he is over half a second better than anyone else on the track at getting down pit lane, getting into his box, and getting out of there.
Yeah, that's a fantastic job there and good recognition on those times. That goes a long way. It's not just the time inside that pit stall. It is the time making your way into the pit lane, making your way down pit road, and then the exit. You can make up a whole lot of time, or you can lose a whole lot of time in that half lap around that pit stop. So that's a big thing to be looking at. And also keep in mind, you're looking at 42 seconds or so is that time on pit road. Add a few seconds here or there, getting down to speed, getting up to speed. So maybe about 50 seconds or so is the difference. If you're able to shave one pit stop out of this race, 50 seconds is what you're looking at.
Timothy Latham pitted back on lap 36, so 8 lap older tires than James Holtzer, who is in second by about 1.8 seconds. You will see that lead diminish extremely quickly here in the next 4 or 5 laps.
Without question, and this was the strategy that I hate to kind of bring it back to me on this one, but I ran with on Thursday, where I was pitting earlier than most of the field. I think there was only 1 or 2 drivers that were pitting earlier than I was. I had a very set number in mind after we had that one caution early. And what I was noticing was, if there was anybody 6 laps fresher tires behind me, I was just going to let them go at that point because they were coming up so much quicker. You're looking at about a half-second differential. It's not going to be as drastic in these Cup cars, but it's still going to be significantly enough that I think if you made that early pit stop and you're trying to kind of just push it, be really aggressive on undercutting everybody else, you're going to have to commit to just letting people go sometimes.
Yeah, you can see the difference there on the lap times there at the bottom. Half a second each lap or more faster for James Holtzer. So, of course, that will wear down over time. And obviously, Timothy Latham's going to be able to get into pits the next time around a little bit earlier than anyone else. But again, that might not be a good thing because now that he pitted early, he has committed himself to 3 stops.
Yeah, and that's really where you're sitting there thinking, I'm hoping that I'm going to see a late caution in this race to try to equalize everybody on those pit stops. If you know that there's people that might be able to make it the rest of the way with 1 fewer pit stop than you're really having a bank. You've committed to that. You're not going to be able to stretch that. There's people that might, and that still is a reach. I'm not going to say that there's anybody that will have 1 fewer pit stop. That's going to take a lot of commitment to be able to do it. You're going to have to sacrifice a lot of time on track to make that happen, and that can be difficult for guys behind the wheel at times. So we're about to see Timothy Latham lose 4 spots here pretty quick on those older tires. Doing a good job, though, just giving that space, not putting anybody in a bad spot, knowing that he's going to be slower right now in this run.
I mean, take a look at this. Scott Healy on the inside of Reese Schaefer trying to pull off second place after being involved in that earlier incident. So not only is he fast enough to work his way through the pack, but now he is the second car on the track. And now he's going to do everything he can to catch up to James Holtzer, who has a 1.5 second lead.
And pretty similar life in those tires right now, too, in terms of when they made their pit stop. Only a couple lap difference between Healy and Holtzer. Healy came in on lap 43, 45 for James Holtzer. So they're going to be pretty level, maybe about a 1/10 of a second difference in terms of what they can maximize on these laps for a little bit longer. But once they get about midway through this tire run, that's going to be the point where those tires really equal out, and they're going to be on pretty level playing ground. So I really like this position that Scott Healy's in right now because he's shown how fast he is and how comfortable he is making passes on this racetrack.
Yeah, he came in 14 points above the cut, and so he's pretty safe right here in that second position. He would love nothing more than to have the momentum going into next week by just winning this race outright. But if he sits where he is right now, he is into next week, and that's where the big money's at.
Yeah, he's in the position he needs to be by far right now, and he doesn't have to push the issue. He can be very conservative the rest of the way in this race and really just try to hold steady. Even if he fell back a half second right now, he'd still be sitting inside the top 5. It's a great position to be in when you have that points gap that he had entering this race. You can really control your own destiny in a lot of ways as you make your way around here. Obviously, he's going to want to go out and get the win, but the bigger picture is what you got to keep your eye on.
Yeah, and his teammate right behind him pushing and kind of blocking the way for Reese Schaefer as well. So not out there, hindering Reese Schaefer, but this is another car that Reese has to get through in order to get to Scott Healy.
So Scott Healy sitting there in a great position. Also in this pack with him, just a couple spots behind, Reese Schaefer, also in a very comfortable position, being the 3rd highest positioned playoff driver in the field. He was ahead of the cut line coming in. Seth Berger not in a bad position either right now, as he's sitting there in the 5th spot, and that's actually going to be enough currently to put him ahead of his teammate Joshua Balliet. If you look at the point standings, the way that this is going, or it's going to put him very close, I should say. I misadded that one in my head, actually. It's going to make it very tight at this point. But what we're looking at, though, is that, Dalton Tucker, yes, he's got the biggest gap of everybody. He's sitting in the 12th position, kind of leaving an opportunity for some of these guys like Berger, like Kalal, to maybe gain a little bit of ground and maybe start making a little bit of a push towards that top 5.
Well, if the race ended right here, right now, James Holtzer would be in, Joshua Balliet would be out.
Yeah, and that's one of those things, James Holtzer, if he goes out there, holds this lead, wins the race, he's locked himself in. Just because, you get those 3 bonus points for winning the race, that alone is going to put you over the top after a 2-point gap back to the 5th place driver entering this race. So he knows he controls his own destiny while he continues to run out in front.
Yeah, and he has expanded that lead to over 2 seconds now. So waiting as long as he possibly could to take those tires, definitely paying off as that lead just gets bigger and bigger on the track. And so that's, the next question is, what does somebody have to do in order to catch him?
Either hope that somebody that rarely makes a mistake, or that a caution comes out and it just opens up the field and maybe puts a little bit of pressure on that 42 and causes that little bit of a slip up, or you just put him in an uncomfortable position if you get a good restart. But he's shown that ability over this season, over past seasons, that he can just have these great restarts consistently. He changes up his starting point every time. Just so good on those restarts. It's going to be real tough to see anybody really be a threat to the 42 aside from that 64 Scott Healy.
The big race right now, Joshua Balliet, Timothy Latham, Dalton Tucker here. So Joshua Balliet needs to beat Timothy Latham by 2 or more points in order to pass Timothy Latham. Now, you got to remember, Timothy led some laps there too, so technically he has to beat him by 3 positions at this point. Joshua Balliet does. And right now he is exactly 3 positions ahead of Timothy Latham.
Oh, just keeping this real interesting now with the way this is going out, and this is the trouble that pit strategy for Latham might be causing, and you're seeing how close everybody was bunched up before that pit stop happened, and coming in early just really cost him a whole lot of time. I see why he went for the gamble. It's why I did it on Thursday, but it's kind of backfiring a little bit because it's less extreme on these cars. It's Bobby Anderson making his way back down pit road. We saw him about 22 laps ago, so not sure what happened there to send him back in, but making another stop there. But checking back in on the race leader, James Holtzer. That lead now opened up to 2.3 seconds, so he is growing that about 1/10 of a second a lap.
Yeah, nobody anywhere near James Holtzer right now, either in front of him or behind him, so he's got nothing but clear skies in front of him. But now we've got a little bit of side-by-side action between Austin Reedy and Seth Berger.
A side-by-side race for the 3rd position. Obviously, the help is going to come from for the 77 with his teammate right behind him, trying to help him by on the inside, give him that little bit of extra energy through the draft. Not going to be giving that to the 1, I wouldn't suspect. Trying to make that inside line work. It real tight there coming off of turn 4, though. Then opening that gap back up, giving each other that space, making sure that there's no net code or no bobble that puts either of them in a bad position. And that's the spot that's tough for Seth Berger. You want to be aggressive. You want to maximize your opportunities to make some passes, but you also got to make sure you keep that car clean, because one mistake and your playoff race is over.
The other thing to think about here is Scott Healy, Austin Reedy are on Murray Reedy Motorsports. Seth Berger, Reese Schaefer, they're on Tank Racing. They're competing against each other for the team championship also in this round. So they're only 10 points difference there. So they are fighting for their not only playoff lives here, but also their playoff lives in the team championship.
Yeah, and right now the difference in that playoff race could come down to Joshua Balliet sitting there in the 8th position. So Tank with 3 drivers inside the top 8 right now. So they're looking like they're in a solid position to possibly make up that 10-point gap against Murray Reedy coming into this race.
Yeah, this is, man, I mean, it's going to be one of those that we're just going to have to wait until we get the actual tallies in, and we will get those to everybody as soon as we possibly can after this race.
Yeah, you are the math expert there, putting that together real quick as our post-race goes on. So can't wait to see all that at the end of this broadcast. But we're getting pretty close to halfway through on our longest race of the season, mile-wise. And what we're seeing is this field getting real comfortable, just kind of sorting out single file, not putting a lot of pressure on anybody, really letting the race come to them. But that has opened up still that big window for Holtzer. 2.25 seconds. That's kind of leveled off, and that's about that point in the tire run that I think the tires would start to equalize between everybody. That kind of came in around that same time with each other, and we're seeing those times kind of reflect that.
Well, keep in mind also that Austin Reedy is in line for the JBR Challenge Award from Glitch Energy. So as long as he keeps this position, the highest finishing non-playoff driver will get that Glitch Energy starter pack. And so Austin Reedy trying to get him some energy out there.
Yeah, not a bad thing, just getting that little extra energy. And this is actually really good practice because we got so many different things we're having to keep track of tonight. We're going to have to do that again next week with the championship race, the team championship, the Tier 2 championship, the extra 3 positions that are going to get paid out this season. There's going to be so much to keep up with next week. So I thank you, Glitch and JBR, for putting that together so we get a little practice before next week in Atlanta.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you would think that it would be easier to go from 10 drivers down to 5 drivers in order to keep track, but with the team championship, with the actual championship, with the second tier championship, with that the 6th through 8th place being on the line, all those things being on the line, next week our minds are just going to be blown.
Oh, by the way, there's also a race that we have to keep up with
too.
in general.
That too, yeah.
So plenty to look forward to next week as we crown our 3 champions in SRN and the trucks on Wednesday, Xfinity on Thursday, Cup on Sunday, but still half the race left to go here in the Lone Star 210 as the leader at halfway. It's been the leader for about 62 of the 70 laps thus far, and that's James Holtzer.
Just kind of looking through the pack here, let's take a look at David Duke once again. He has made his way back up to 13th position. Remember, he is the one that was the furthest behind the 8 ball coming into this race.
Yeah, nice recovery for David here. We saw him not too long after that caution, sitting about 6 seconds off pace from everybody else in that 21st position, just being real conservative out there, maybe thinking about trying to stretch it out to cut down one of those pit stops that'll be needed if this thing stays green. We'll have to see how that plays out, but either way, doing a real good job of moving himself forward. And now we got early pit stops yet again for Latham and Ellison, both coming in, and this is even earlier than the last time. It's only been about 35 laps since they made their last pit stop.
Yeah, I think they're saying, hey, I've already committed to this 3 pit stop deal. Let's get some new tires as quickly as possible so we can get back out there on the track and hopefully make up some time, especially Timothy Latham, because of this whole playoff picture. He knows that he has to stay within a few points of Joshua Balliet in order to have any prayer of staying in.
And you nailed the big part of that, and part of what you can do, you're sitting there looking at that caution coming out, and we go back green on, I believe it was lap 6, so you're looking at 135-ish laps left in that race. You can cut that down and say, you know what, I know I'm not going to try to stretch this out. I know I'm not going to make it going on this really conservative strategy, trying to save as much fuel as possible. So why am I going to stretch this out to 40, 42 laps instead of just coming in a little bit earlier, not having as many laps on those older tires as everybody else, and just commit to the 1 extra pit stop, trying to run faster laps the entire race? It's a way to get around there, and you just kind of game plan it from that point as opposed to just going out as long as possible and maybe hoping for a caution to come out, or just trying to run it as dry as you can and see what you can do. It's really it's a lot of commitment to that strategy, but I like it if it pays off for sure. It's one of those things that it's a home run swing that could definitely hit in a big way.
I mean, you definitely are running a risk. Just like everything else, every decision you make on iRacing is a risk. So it's either going to work or it's not. And so the risk there is that you come in, you're already going to go down a lap because of that pit stop, and if a caution comes out, then you are completely behind.
Yeah, and that's that scary thing that I know there was a few of us doing that strategy on Thursday, and it does scare you a whole lot as we got more leaders coming in. It's Scott Healy and Austin Reedy, so 2nd and 4th on the pit road right now, both Murray-Reedy teammates. And James Holtzer still going to hold on to that lead. It's going to be Berger and Schaefer sitting in 2nd and 3rd, and then add Goen and Brummett into the top 5 now as we cycle through these pit stops.
Looking at those pit lane times once again, like I said, I kind of enjoy seeing that because it just shows how quickly guys get down pit road. Timothy Latham actually had to stay in the pits for an extra 5 seconds to repair some damage, and so now he is all the way back in the 20th position, and he is running a massive risk of missing out on this thing.
Yeah, that's going to be a real tough position there as we check back in. Timothy Latham, see that speed difference that he's got right now against Michael Politis, who was actually one of the last drivers to make a pit stop on that first stint. But either way, just look at how much he's pulled away. He's already a good 8 tenths, 9 tenths, maybe a full second ahead, and he only made that pass a couple of turns ago.
Yeah, now he is going to be driving furiously, which I know from experience. Timothy Latham, when he drives angry, he drives really well.
He is definitely good at riding that edge to where it's almost to the point of just pushing it a little too far. He knows where to find that balance, and just really good when he needs to have an aggressive pace. And you throw him on a 1.5 miles in general. That's kind of that sweet spot for him. So interesting to see him take this odd strategy, but I don't mind it one bit. Just trying to be different from everybody else. The only thing that worries me about that is he's one of the drivers that's in the top 5 coming in this race. So it's real aggressive to be on the offensive as opposed to playing defense compared to everybody else. But if that's something that he's comfortable committing to, that's something that could definitely pay off.
Well, you'll see right now that that James Holtzer, I mean, he came into this race 2 points below the cut. He is no longer 2 points below the cut, being out here in the lead, also likely leading the most laps, as well as getting that point for leading the lap. So it looks like he could have a max points day, which is 46 points. That would be absolutely massive and would completely destroy the standings.
Yeah, and one thing, we talk about that clean race bonus point that you get. As clean as this race has been to this point, there's going to be a large majority of the field that are going to pick that up, so that can kind of be negated. But only one person is going to pick up the bonus point for the most laps led, and only one person is going to pick up the 3 for winning a race that go on top of that first place points already. And at this point, it's hard to see anybody aside from Holtzer doing that. Granted, there's still 60 laps to go, plenty of racing left, plenty of time to see a mistake happen or see a late caution come up and really throw a curveball into this thing. But if it stays how it is, I think you're definitely looking at James Holtzer finding a way to move himself into the top 5 for Atlanta.
Joshua Balliet getting his pit stop done as well. Seth Berger currently slotted in the 2nd position. He has not pitted yet, though. So the first driver that has pitted is Scott Healy back here. He is technically a lap down right now, but he will be working to get that lap back here shortly.
Yeah, he's kind of in that spot now where trying to make up as much as he can, but also trying not to really abuse that equipment and really put himself in a bad spot. Now we're seeing the leaders make their way in. Ooh, nice little slide there from Seth Berger. Good job at containing that. But Holtzer going to be coming on pit road, as is Berger. That's going to give the lead once again to Reese Schaefer.
Yeah, and Reese Schaefer kind of in that area where he's good right now, but he doesn't want to be too comfortable right now.
Yeah, that's one of those awkward spots. Like, you always got to stay on edge. It's really hard to kind of have that aggression that you need, to kind of keep that focus that you need when you're in a position where you're too comfortable. That's kind of one of those things. It's a little bit weird as we see Schaefer make his way to pit road. Nice clean entry there. That's going to be important.
And so that will actually give the lead over to David Duke, who picks up an all-important bonus point. I believe he led that lap.
It's actually going to be Schaefer that still had the edge there. So David Duke actually 2nd going across that line, was just a little too far away to make that pass at the start-finish line before Schaefer got there. So I expect to see David Duke kind of sit out there that one extra lap, and especially if he's trying that conservative strategy anyway, would imagine he's going to be staying out there picking up that bonus point, and there he goes.
So he will pick up that all-important point, and he's going to need every single one of them coming into this race, 14 points out.
And that's going to go a long, long way, as we've seen him work his way through the field a couple of times, see if he can do that yet again. But again, remember, that's that 50-second window that you're looking at, too. If he can stretch this thing out, and for one fewer pit stop, 50 seconds would be a huge margin that he can add to this time, or reduce from his time in the total amount of this race. So you're looking at 55 laps to go. He's getting pretty close. If he can stretch this out another 9 laps, 8 laps or so, he might be in the money where he can stretch this the rest of the way.
I just think that's going to be a tall ask right now, man.
It's a huge ask.
Huge.
Very much a big ask, but it's going to be one of those things where we can really see if he's going to be able to make it the rest of the way. And it's also not going to say that he can't if he doesn't come in by, say, lap 94, 95. If he comes in a little bit before that, that might be some research and knowing, all right, I got to back it off a little bit more even. So it's not going to knock him out of the question. I think if he comes in the next couple laps, that'll kind of be that, all right, that's not going to happen. And now he's got to figure out how he's going to find a plan B to kind of figure out how he's going to get to the end of this race at a real awkward distance.
Well, keep in mind, he pitted on lap 44. Now, that's after 2 caution laps as well. He pitted on lap 44. So if he pits at lap 88, then that's still not going to get him there. So, 44 laps, plus 88, so that's 132. He's still 8 laps short. And so he is going to have to go at least 4 more laps here to have any prayer.
Yeah, you're looking at, I think if he makes it to 92, 93, that's going to be that zone where you're looking at, all right, he's got a shot at doing this because he just made that distance under full green flag capacity. So it's going to be real tight, but it's something that can be done. And we've seen him just be real loose with it. Oh, there it goes. 88 is going to be the lap that he comes in. I don't think he's going to be able to make it on one fewer stop.
No, he is definitely not at this point. Michael Politis is going to stay out there, though. He is going to take the lead. Did not get a bonus point. He's not in the playoffs right now anyway, but he will take that lead away. He has not had his final or his next pit stop yet. He will have to come in very, very shortly. Everyone else has pitted on the track.
And looking at it now, look at that scoring sheet there on the left side, though. It's going to be Scott Healy that's going to be picking up the lead, as he's got about a 4-second gap to James Holtzer behind him. Granted, they did come in at different times. You're looking at, 6 laps or so difference. So that's going to be a tough spot. He's also in a pretty good dogfight right now with Max Service, who's trying to get back on the lead lap and try to avoid if any caution comes out. So he's having to fight for that to naturally get back on the lead lap and avoid any lucky dog or being burned by that. And that kind of costs him a little bit of time. Holtzer kind of ringing back in, but he's still going to be a little bit quicker anyway in the 42 just with those fresher tires.
Yeah, but again, keep in mind, you got to look at those pit lane times more than just the pit stop times, because Scott Healy came down and he ran a 42.78 down pit lane. James Holtzer 42.45. So James Holtzer actually picked up 0.3 of a second on pit road.
Yeah, a lot faster there. That was actually the slower time for Holtzer in this race by about 0.6. Just goes to show you how good that first pit road time and entry and exit that he had was. But yeah, you could see that. We brought that up a couple laps ago about how it was a 4-second gap. That's already down to 2.25 seconds. Those 7-lap fresher tires going a long way right now for Holtzer as he tries to reel him back in. But I like that shot that Scott Healy took, coming in early, trying that undercut, really getting out there and maybe making that 42 feel a little bit more uncomfortable and having to chase and make passes for the lead. But I just don't see anybody else really fighting the 42 today. Too hard for that win, the way that he's looking thus far.
Okay, so Healy came in at 75, so you're looking at 37 laps per stop for him. So from 75 to 140, that's 65 laps. So Healy could potentially cut this in half. Come in 32 laps after 75, so now you're looking at 107, and he could really maximize his use of these tires.
Yeah, and that's the thing that you got to look for. And this is also where we talk about risk and iRacing with every decision. That's where I would kind of lean in this situation is, oh, wow, real tight moment there as James Holtzer going to the inside on that second dog leg, getting around the 10 of Kyle Benson, now coming up on second place Austin Reedy, and don't think there's going to be a whole lot of a fight here for that second position. Holtzer going to whip right by for second and now set his sights on Scott Healy about a half second ahead. But that is where I would be looking, honestly, at this point, is if I'm Scott Healy, I've got to kind of do something a little atypical. I would look at just cut it in half, take that risk that a caution's going to come out. And you're looking at only 20 cars left on the racetrack, 17 on the lead lap. If that falls at the wrong time, you're going to take a hit, but it's not going to be catastrophic. It's a tough call, though, because you also got to play defense in terms of points.
Whoa, and a little bit of a blink there for Scott Healy. A large blink there for Scott Healy.
He's actually out of the server.
Wow.
So that changes everything.
Drastically. And so, not sure what happened there. But yeah, Scott Healy will, if he can get back in this race and some cautions fall his way, then maybe he'll be okay. But right now, as it sits, this is going to be the end of his playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean, we're still sitting there looking at him out right now. He's about to fall to the 20th position, be multiple laps down. That is going to ice it, where he is very likely going to be seeing himself out of the playoffs going forward, despite that 14-point gap. So this is a huge moment. This not often I'm speechless. I'm pretty speechless right now.
The defending champ, more than likely not going to be able to defend his title in the championship race. That is absolutely awful.
Well, to kind of get back to what's going on track, Austin Reedy picks up that second position once again. He's going to be about a second and 2/3 behind James Holtzer, who does have the lead still. And you're going to go another 2 seconds back to Seth Berger. And with looking at one of the 5 drivers in the top 5 now out of the race, seeing Timothy Latham running in 13th, Holtzer might not be the only driver that could move his way in. Seth Berger's looking like he's in a great position right now as well.
Okay, well, yeah, so as it sits, yeah, James Holtzer looking pretty solid to be in. He was only 2 points outside the cut coming into this thing anyway. Reese Schaefer, Joshua Balliette, Dalton Tucker, all looking good right now. Timothy Latham back here in 13th position. That is going to be the worrisome thing.
Yeah, now all of a sudden, the attention turns to Timothy Latham, and is his strategy going to be the one now that works or eliminates him from playoff contention? This is a real dicey position, because he kind of lost a little bit of that buffer up there. Now you're going to see a lot more people kind of squeeze into this battle, especially a Seth Berger and a Scott Kalal trying to make their way up into that top 5, and he might be the odd man out.
Yeah, this playoff battle just got really real.
And for a long race with only one caution that came out on lap number 1 and then 100 laps of green flag racing just about since, it would almost seem like this would be a boring race, and then all of a sudden everything just got flipped upside down. And yeah, this just really got interesting with 40 laps to go. And Timothy Latham real hot. He spins it. And he very well might have a penalty for too hot on the entry in pit road as well, because he was really carrying some speed.
Oh my goodness, this just got crazier.
I'm just sitting here mind blown at everything that's happened in the past 5 or 6 laps. We've seen 2 top 5 drivers and 2 championship contenders, big-time championship contenders, have possible moments happen that knock them out of the championship 5 at the end of this race, after they were sitting inside the top 5 coming into this one. Timothy Latham spinning it on pit road. Amazing job from him to not hit anything and not hit the pit wall and cause damage to that car. He's going to just have to make up some time. Could have been a whole lot worse. But this race and this playoff race has just been flipped upside down in a huge way.
Well, now you've got Seth Berger sitting here in 3rd position. He was 6 or 7 points out of the cut coming into this race. By being in 3rd and Timothy Latham being all the way back in 19th right now, Scott Healy being out of the race, it is very possible that Seth Berger gets into this thing.
And remember, we're not just looking at, Reese Schaefer, who was 7 points ahead of Seth Berger. Timothy Latham was 9 points ahead. The gap right now, you're going back to 18th for Timothy Latham, who's running the risk being 2 laps down right now because of that pit strategy. And then, Seth Berger sitting up in 3rd. That's a minimum. They both have led a lap, so that's 15 points right there, the difference. That would be a +6 for Seth Berger at this point in the race.
Wow. You come into these races, especially with a race that has, 21 drivers on track. Byron McDonald never actually got on track. So 21 drivers on the track, and you think, there's going to be plenty of room. There's not really going to be a lot of action out there. This is kind of going to be the status quo. And then you get here and look at what has happened.
Yeah, who says Texas is a boring racetrack? I mean, all of a sudden everything's happening here at Texas in this race with all the single file racing that we're seeing. Not so much anymore because Seth Berger actually trying to take a look to the inside of the one of Austin Reedy. This is the race for second place as James Holtzer still pulling away about 4 seconds ahead, but seeing good side-by-side racing with Berger and Reedy as Holtzer still out in the clear right now. Now we got Scott Kalal making his way to pit road, and this is going to be the final pit stop should this race stay green for everybody. It's about now, when do you want to come in? When do you want to make the differential in those laps? Because it's not going to take 2 full runs to get to the end from that last pit stop. So this is that discussion that we were talking about what seems like years ago on when you were going to split up that kind of awkward distance, and everybody's going to have a different idea on how they want to achieve that.
Yeah, but the longer that James Holtzer stays out here while some of these other guys that are somewhat challenging him, the longer he stays out, the more time he's going to lose.
Yeah, he came in on lap 82 into lap 83, so I would think that we'll see him in probably in the next 3 to 5 laps would be my guess to kind of cut that right down the middle.
So just kind of waiting for all this to sort itself out. Austin Reedy coming down into pit lane as well. So he's going to come down, but James Holtzer is staying out. And again, you know, conventional wisdom would think that he might want to come in here pretty shortly.
And the reason why I think that he can wait till about 110 or 112 to do so is, remember how we were talking earlier, this is really 2 different tire runs. The first 20 laps is a lot more speed. The last 20 laps is a lot more about the handling. So I think if you're looking at 28 laps to go, there's still going to be enough where he's going to chase down a lot of these guys that are running out, kind of doing this undercut to try to pick up the time on him right now. He'll still have enough time to chase them down. If he waits till about 120, that's where that's going to go away, where by the time he catches them, the race is about to be over. So I think 112 is kind of that sweet spot there where he should be okay. He might be able to push it a little bit later, but I think we're going to see him in probably in the next couple laps.
Yeah, he's got a nice 4-second lead on Seth Berger right now as it sits. So really he has a little bit to play with here if he needs to. So Austin Reedy already making his pit stop. And so it looks like Austin Reedy will kind of be the only challenger out there for him when it gets to that point. Dean Brummett coming in for his pit stop now as well.
Still staying out, James Holtzer. Seth Berger believe doing the same. Don't see that time dropping much as well for Reese Schaefer. And this might also be a thought, too, that they're a little nervous. They're all in a good position right now in this race. They might just be nervous that they come in and it backfires on them. And they just wind up kind of getting caught by a caution. And all of a sudden, this big gap goes away. They're all kind of sitting in a spot right now, knowing some of the troubles that we've seen for a couple of the guys inside the top 5. They can almost risk getting caught by a couple of guys, too, by running this out a little bit farther and not having the time to make up. They can lose a couple spots and still be okay. That would be the more optimal of the two, the lesser of those two evils, I should say, as opposed to getting caught by a caution. That all could be factoring in. There's a lot of pressure on this last pit stop for these top 5 drivers still staying out.
That, the team championship, I mean, everything is on the line right now, and all that pressure builds up so much on everybody that mistakes are bound to happen, and that's really what happened with Timothy Latham as he had to kind of take care of that mistake. He is going to be slotted 3.5 laps down right now.
Oh, wow. And granted, he's going to make up about 2, but that's still going to put him a full lap down by the time that we cycle through these pit stops. And even then, he's going to be racing for the lucky dog if a caution were to even come out. That is a near kill shot there for the playoff hopes going forward for Timothy Latham. He's going to have to get a lot of help to make his way back into there, whether it's he picks up positions or someone like Seth Berger and Scott Kalal lose a lot of positions the rest of the way.
Yeah, but we've seen this race be relatively clean this entire time, and so besides that first incident, but with 26 laps here to go, with all these cars getting as spread out as they are, and with all these pit stops happening, I'm not sure there are any more swings from the pits out there.
No, I mean, it's going to have to take getting a restart involved for anything like that to happen. I got to be honest, I'm still a little surprised that we're seeing these top 5 drivers still staying out on the racetrack. I think at some point you got to make this call that it's not worth it anymore. You're going to run out of time to really kind of close that gap back in, because you're going to see Max Service get ahead. You're going to see Austin Reedy, Dean Brummett, Dalton Tucker. They're all probably going to get ahead in the next 50 seconds by the time these leaders make their pit stop.
And really, I am truly surprised right now that Holtzer hasn't come in yet. Now he does.
Might have heard us talking that we were that surprised that he was still out.
Oh, and he gets sideways.
I think he actually might have clipped the grass just a little bit looking at that. So it was either the entry just came in a little hot and got on the brakes a little too much, but he was right on the edge of that infield grass. That might have kicked him around a little bit. Either way, tremendous race and playoff saving moment right there by keeping that thing straight.
Yeah, as long as he didn't blow the speed limit. If he blew the speed limit there, then that changes everything once again.
Ooh, we'll have to take a look and see how that works out. But this race lead is going to cycle over to Austin Reedy as he's going to move out in front. Now, he came in on lap 107, so he's going to have about 8 laps different on those tires. And this is going to be the question. Is there going to be enough time for these guys that are making their pit stop now to make up this gap and catch back up? And I'm looking at this time. It's actually more significant than I was even thinking. And James Holtzer still on pit road, and that might be a penalty.
That's a penalty. He is sitting on pit road serving a penalty. Wow, either for unsafe pit entry or for too much speed. And that is going to hand possibly the race over to Austin Reedy.
He's got a 4.5-second gap on Dean Brummett. Dalton Tucker 6 seconds back. The one that you're going to have to keep an eye on now is going to be Seth Berger in 5th. He's 11 seconds back. He's going to have to be about a half second a lap faster, but he does have about 8 lap fresher tires. He's got the newest tires out there by far. Dean Brummett came in on lap 110, so he's going to be about 6 laps older than Seth Berger is, who's already moved up to the 4th position. This is going to be tight for Seth Berger. This race might be falling into the hands of Austin Reedy because of that extra time that Holtzer would have had on him. And I don't know how many more times this race can just completely flip on us, but it did it once again. This is unbelievable, the amount of mistakes we're seeing tonight on the track.
I mean, I'm trying to do math as feverishly as I possibly can right now. Right now, it looks like Dalton Tucker is solidly in if everything stayed the same right now, obviously. Reese Schaefer, it looks like he would be in. Joshua Balliet, it looks like he would be in. Now the question is, Scott Healy looks like he will be out. Looks like Timothy Latham, as it sits right now, would be out. But the question is, who's in? And so Seth Berger looks like he would pass Timothy Latham. And then James Holtzer would not pass Timothy Latham at this point. And so
Scott Kalal might be in the golden seat. He might have pulled a parachute and had the safest landing of everybody, just with all the chaos going around. And by the way, we still got 21 laps to go. Who knows what's going to happen the rest of the way in this race with the amount of mistakes that we've seen tonight. This thing is still entirely up for grabs. And by the way, checking back in, James Holtzer, 17th place now, 1 lap down. And if a caution were to come out, the lucky dog would go to Kyle Benson in 16th.
And James still has about a quarter of a lap to catch up to Kyle Benson to take away that lucky dog as well. And now Austin Reedy looking to put Max Service a lap down, which would put James Holtzer even further behind the 8 ball.
There's always the thing on a bunch of F1 pages about review this race in 3 words in like a caption game. I don't think there's enough words that could be used to describe this race as we get through 120 of 140 laps here in the Lone Star 210. This has been absolutely chaotic, to say the least, in everything that we're seeing. And in the end of it, half of the top 10 right now, not even in our playoff top 10. That says plenty in how wild this race has been.
I mean, the 3 words I'd use are, oh my goodness.
That works. That might win the caption contest. There's a few other words I could probably use, but that would get us kicked off YouTube.
Yeah, not sure. Here. We can't.
It would have to be a few of those Guinness beers that we were talking about earlier for me to make that mistake on air. But speaking of good racing here, once again got Nick Goen, Reese Schaefer side by side. This is the race for 5th and 6th. And not far behind, in front of them is Dalton Tucker in the 4th position. Schaefer about to get a 2-for-1 here and move up from 6th all the way up to 4th in one set of turns.
I mean, if this thing holds up, 3 of our winningest drivers in Speed Racing Network history, James Holtzer, Timothy Latham, and last season's champ Scott Healy, could all be eliminated.
And how about this? The team we've been talking about all year, about the All-Star team, the Hendrick version of what we've been seeing all year, and how it was possible we could see 4 or 5 of them in the Championship 5. If it ends right now, we would probably be looking at 0 from Next Level making the final. Unbelievable the way that their luck has turned around this postseason.
That's just amazing. I mean, you can be the best team out there for the first 18 weeks of the season, but if you don't finish it off in 19 and 20, it just doesn't matter.
Unbelievable. And we're looking at Tank possibly having 3 of the 5 drivers. And we've been talking about this all year, that they've quietly put together a better and better runs each week. They've really been the most improved team. And you could argue that in all 3 levels of SRN and Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. But for sure in Cup, they have been the most improved team from last season to this season, and it could be playing off in a huge way where they've got a 60% chance of walking away with the individual title at the end of Atlanta next week.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is here, I'm kind of interested to see what happened with Byron McDonald because it looks like he registered for the race. He just wasn't able to get out there on the track. Had he been able to get out there on the track, then Rev Racing might have been able to make up a lot of positions here for that team championship. But as it sits right now, it looks like Next Level will still advance in the team championship.
And they would be doing that with 2 in the top 10. I was about to say 1. I didn't catch Gabriel Ellison there. I think there was a little position switch at the same time I was looking. But yeah, so they would have 2 drivers inside the top 10. They might have been able to hold on, but that would be a lot closer. There's a whole lot interesting going on. And oh, by the way, the other side of that bracket, even with Tank possibly having 3 drivers in there, they still got to make up 10 points on Murray Reedy. And speaking of that team, the guy named Reedy leading the race. So Austin Reedy still out in front. That might be keeping Murray Reedy into the championship next week against possibly Next Level. And that's despite Tank possibly having 3 drivers in the Championship 5.
You know, I don't think so, though. There was only a 10-point difference coming into this thing. Seth Berger, Reese Schaefer, Joshua Balliet, all in the top 7 right now. Austin Reedy, the only one of Murray Reedy Motorsports in the top 14. And so if you go Austin Reedy, Craig Lautenslager, and then Kyle Benson, which is where it would sit right now, 32 plus. So their total addition of their positions is 33. And then the other total is 14. So it looks like, on the outside looking in, that Tank is making up about 19 points. It looks like Tank might actually sneak through.
So, lesson learned, never do quick math when an accountant is on the other side of you, because you're a lot better.
Hey, something else happens out there, who knows what's going to happen.
Oh my goodness, yeah, we can't take anything for granted at this point after what we've seen in the past 30 laps or so here in this race. But Austin Reedy just suddenly found the perfect landing position amidst all this chaos. And don't look now, but new second place driver is Seth Berger. He has just made his way around Dean Brummett, and now 3 1/4 seconds the gap. He's made up 7 over the past 14 laps.
Yeah, he pitted on lap 115. Also pitted on lap 107. The question is, does Seth Berger have enough in the next 11 laps to catch up to Reedy?
And the great news for him, in the big picture, it doesn't matter really to this point if it stays green the rest of the way. He keeps that thing out of trouble. He's in a spot where he's golden right now with the trouble that we've seen for Latham and for Healy. But either way, he's really closing that gap. He might be just finding himself trying to move that way in with that win and just locking this thing up right now out here without even having to really worry about the rest of the field.
Yeah, still working on math here. Here's something interesting. Scott Kalal in 9th. James Holtzer currently in 16th. 7 positions separate them, but Holtzer will get the lead lap as well as the most laps led points also. So Holtzer might still sneak in.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see if at the end of this race about the clean bonus as well with that spin on pit road. Very possible that triggered a 2x situation and give an incident point there to James Holtzer, so that might have taken that point away. Scott Kalal might have a clean race. I don't recall him being in trouble at any point tonight. See how he had to get away in that lap 1 incident that possibly could have as well. but that could come into play as well. We won't know that till the end of the race, which is about 8 laps away now.
But then on top of that, Timothy Latham was 4 points ahead of Holtzer coming into this thing, and he's only 2 spots behind Holtzer now, even though he's a lap down. So, I mean, right now, if I had to guess, just guessing, I think Latham would be in, Holtzer would be out.
That would be the absolute miracle moment for Timothy Latham if, despite everything, he still finds himself in, and that just goes to show how important all 3 legs of the race are. You get off to a really strong start in those first 2. You can have a bit of a disastrous run in that last race and still be able to hang on, but it's going to be a nail-biter for the driver of the 5, the driver of the 42, the driver of the 23. There's so many guys that are just having to wait these last 7 laps and just hope that they've done enough over the past 3 races to find their way into that Championship 5 in Atlanta, or possibly Championship 6 or 7. I'm not going to count out a Championship 9 at this rate with how everything's going, as ties will also advance.
Well, and now we've got to look at Seth Berger also. Seth Berger is catching Austin Reedy by about 0.3 of a second per lap. That one only about 0.2 of a second, but he is 1.4 seconds behind. If you take, 0.25 seconds times 6 laps to go, he's there at Austin Reedy's bumper on the last lap.
And by the way, his teammate might be a factor in this as well, right behind him. Reese Schaefer's jumped up to the 3rd position. He's running even quicker laps than Seth Berger by about 1/10 of a second a lap compared to him. So this is getting real interesting for all these drivers. And Seth Berger, I think he's at the point where those tires are about to equalize, and he's going to be pretty level with Austin Reedy. But the good thing for him is he's getting close enough that pull from the draft is about to start to be a little bit of a factor as well.
Now, Austin Reedy just passed his own teammate, Craig Lautenschlager, there, and so that might be just kind of a barrier between Seth Berger and Austin Reedy. We will find out how hard Craig races Seth here in just a second.
And in most cases, I would say, there's not a lot that Austin's running for the win, but there's no playoff implications. You don't want to get in trouble trying to do too much and really affecting a playoff driver behind you. But with the team championship involved, you want to get in the way. You don't want to help out that 77 at all. So this might get real interesting, and in the end, we're going to see Craig Lautenschlager there in the 13. Looked like he was going to move to the inside. Actually, he's going to come back up and throw that little bit of a block there.
Yeah, he was catching the draft off of Austin Reedy down on the bottom of the track, and Seth Berger was right on his tail as he came back up the track. So Seth is going to have to work to get around Craig. Oh, Craig kind of dives down there to the bottom. I don't know if you saw that very clearly, but it looks like Seth will get that position. And now, can he get close enough to Austin Reedy to make a move?
I'm not going to count out Reese Schaefer and Nick Gowen in this right now. They're closing in quickly on this race for the lead. We might have 4 cars going for it on these final 2 laps around the Texas Motor Speedway.
Man, this is why we put Texas in this spot, was for racing like this. All the different pit strategies, all the different strategies to get around this track, everything all coming together to 2 laps to go here in Texas for the championship.
And it's what we talked about on the first couple of laps.
Reedy into the wall!
Reedy hits the wall. That's going to send Berger to the inside sharply to make sure he doesn't make contact. Berger to the lead as they come out of turn 3 and 4 for the next to last time.
And now there's just a jumble back here as Reese Schaefer tries to get to the inside of Reedy. Cannot do that. Reedy kind of cuts him off there. Oh, and Reedy gets turned.
Reedy around. What a save from Austin Reedy to keep that off of the wall. He's going to lose a couple spots, but unbelievable to keep that thing going and inside the top 5 as we come down the back straightaway for the final time.
Seth Berger got the white flag. Reese Schaefer, his teammate right behind Nick Gowen, passing Reese Schaefer on the inside. That'll be okay with Reese. He will be able to make it through. Seth Berger coming to the checkered flag, and he will take his first win in Speed Racing Network.
Reese Schaefer is going to edge out Nick Gowen by about 0.06 of a second for the second position. Reedy with that amazing save after that bit of contact coming to the white flag will hold on to 4th. But oh, by the way, after all this, Seth Berger is likely going to see himself inside the Championship 5 and does so with a win that we've all been saying all season long was due to happen this season, and it finally comes at perhaps the most important time in the season.
That was an insane race. One of those races that we thought, hey, this is just kind of a ho-hum deal, and then just mistakes everywhere. And Seth Berger takes full advantage and pulls out his first win in Speed Racing Network in the Cup Series.
Unbelievable. I have very few words to describe what we saw the last 40 laps. We saw guys make mistakes that normally don't make mistakes. We saw all kinds of situations arise. We saw wall contact, car contact, and in the end, we see a first-time winner find a way to have a walk-off moment, very likely, and find himself going to Atlanta for a shot at the championship. And one of the super rookies showing up, and there's going to be is going to be right behind him in second place with Reese Schaefer doing an amazing job for Tank as well. Joshua Valiette in sixth. Tank might be pulling off a huge double moment, taking the lead away in the team side as well. That just what a night for Tank Racing, despite all the chaos going on around.
Just an amazing race, and just, again, quick math. It looks like Tank Racing will advance in the team playoffs to face Next Level Motorsports.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I think we're going to still need about 10 hours worth of breaths.
I'm going to need that beer of the week up in here right now.
Yeah, that 10.8% sounded pretty good right now
gracious.
after the race, and I think there's going to be a whole lot of drivers thinking that 10.8% is going to be a bit of a minimum of what's going to be needed, and how everything shook up the last 40 laps in this. But looking at the rest of this run, the results here, Seth Berger does get that first win in SRN finally after those first 19 weeks. He's been due since really week one. Finally happens for him. Reese Schaefer in the second position. Nick Gowen will round out the podium spots in third. Austin Reedy was leading with 2 laps to go, caught the wall, then got some car contact, an amazing save, but he's going to hold on to the 4th spot. And Dean Brummett rounding out the top 5 on a pretty quiet night for him.
Joshua Balliette for Tank Racing, they're in sixth place. Dalton Tucker for Rev Racing, I'm pretty sure he is definitely in for Rev Racing there. Gabriel Ellison in 8th place for Next Level Motorsports. Scott Kalal in 9th for Rev Racing. And Max Service rounds out your top 10 for Tank.
11th place is going to be David Duke, who had that long shot of making it tonight. He did as much as he could to try to do that. Emerson Ardon will be in the 12th position. Jordan Sailors will be in 13th. Craig Lattenslogger in 14th. And James Holtzer, after that pit road entry that went all awry for him, the dominant driver tonight, will round up in 15th position.
Michael Politis will take 16th place as an independent. Kyle Benson will take 17th place. Timothy Latham will take 18th, so we're going to have to see what that does between himself and James Holtzer there, possibly on that cut line. That's going to be an interesting little scenario there. Raul Meza will be at 19th. Scott Healy, our defending champion, he is out in 20th.
Unbelievable. And, hey, at this rate, I wouldn't be shocked if we see a championship 8. At this point, as tight as everything's starting to look, just doing the math in your head, this is just unbelievable what we saw here in at the Texas Motor Speedway. It's the No Limits Texas, the town that basically got renamed there for this one, and we saw a lot of people kind of go past those limits here tonight.
Well, let's bring Nick Gowen up, and keep in mind that he won the JBR Challenge by being the highest finishing non-playoff driver, so we will bring him up into the booth right now.
Hey, Nick Gowen, congratulations on a third-place finish tonight, and also getting that glitch award through JBR, being the top finishing non-playoff driver tonight. Heck of a run there to get on the podium here at the end of this wild one in Texas. How was it from your perspective?
Yeah, it was a little wild. I mean, I was a little disappointed in my qualifying efforts, but I was able just to keep the nose clean and kind of like just really focus on tires and kind of worked my way up through it. Dirty air was difficult to deal with. I mean, on old tires, it was almost impossible to pass it unless you had help from behind, almost like a draft track or a super speedway. But yeah, it was definitely wild. The one car got sent for a little vacation there at the end. It seemed like, I don't know exactly what happened between him and the 17, but yeah, I'm definitely happy with the finish from tonight. So better than I expected.
Hey, well, it was a great run for you there. And on the team side, we're still doing the math to confirm. Looks like Next Level probably going to be holding on enough to advance to the team championship as well, despite some of the struggles that some of your teammates have had tonight in this one. But that team championship, should that be what happens, we're still waiting to confirm that. We'll have that here shortly. But should that be the thing, how much focus kind of goes forward to that next week?
I mean, that'll be depending on like where James and I think Latham, I think, are the two that are still in. But depending on where they end up after tonight's round, James got taken back with a speeding penalty, I believe. That's what set him back. But yeah, if not for the driver championship, then it'll definitely be the team championship. It will be our focus next week.
Well, before we get to Atlanta, give you a chance to give out any thank yous and sponsor notes and everything that you want to do here before I let you go.
Yeah, I definitely like to thank my sponsors, Carolina Detail and Cine Designs. Excuse me. They've been with me majority of the season, and thank you guys for doing the broadcast each and every week that we race. I know we were gone for a couple of weeks, but we're back and back for one more for the championship. And yeah, thank you guys.
I appreciate that, and congratulations again on the third place finish, and we'll send you back down to your team.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So that is Nick Goen there, our third place finisher tonight, as we take a look again at that team championship bracket as we wait to see those final results, and we'll have those here shortly. But before we go too much farther on that, let's go ahead and bring up Reese Schaefer, our second place finisher here tonight, one of two tank drivers on the podium here in the Lone Star 210. And here we have him now. So Reese Schaefer, congratulations on the second place finish. And among everybody inside that top five coming into the race, seems like you had the quietest night of anybody, and it worked out for you in a great way. How was that race for you over those 210 miles?
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of scared where I was gonna finish up. I was trying to watch the points and stuff, and next thing you know, 10 to go. All of a sudden, Holtzer got a penalty, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm racing for the win. And so got to the final lap there, and Reedy came off the wall and kind of blocked me a little bit, and I got into him. I was actually trying to let off, too. I didn't even mean to hit him, and then he kind of came off my nose, so I apologize to him. But other than that, I'm honestly not sure what just happened, but I'm P2, so.
Hey, sometimes it's the best way. It's not always the way that you expected, and a great finish for Tank in general tonight, having three drivers inside the top six. Looks like that's going to be plenty to probably move your way into the team championship side as well. So how's that going to be these next days going forward, looking for possibly two championships that you're going to be up in the running for?
Yeah, it should be awesome. We were talking about that during the race, seeing position-wise, because at one point it was Healy was in front and Seth and Reedy and me, and then in the back they were trying to figure out where they were to make sure they got in front of everyone they could. But I was trying to just be nice and smooth. I was trying to be as consistent as I could. This track is very tough, especially 1 and 2. Everyone's got kind of their own little thing. Some dive it in, some let off and go through, and trying to see what worked for me, and I was able to get a good rhythm and ended up pretty well. So.
And the big question, you got 7 days now to focus on Atlanta, be running for the championship inside that championship 5. What's the next week going to look like for you as you go for that $1,000 prize at the end of this next race?
Yeah, definitely good. Put some good practice in. Just gotta stay consistent. There's a lot can happen in that last race. So as long as we're up front, get good quality time, and just try to be there. Anything can happen come to the end. So as long as we're close, hopefully we got a good shot. But we'll see what happens.
Well, hey, before we let you go to get into that practice over the next week, give you a chance to give out any thank yous and mention any sponsors you got.
Yeah, we got Liftworks Incorporated. I'd like to thank them. Chicago Heights, Healthcare Billing Incorporated, Raise Energy, Ardon Anesthesia Associates, Butcher Box, Teespring, Common Sense Supplements, Invader Zim's Design. And all my tank teammates. This season's been a lot of fun, and happy to have the opportunity to race, and can't wait to go to Atlanta and see what happens next season.
Hey, in a night where it was a whole lot of unpredictable moments near the end of that race, one thing we do know, since you were inside the top 5 coming in, second place finish, you will be running for that championship. Yes. So congratulations on that.
Appreciate that. Thanks. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too. As we'll send Reese back down with his tank teammates and start to get ready for that championship race, and then we'll go ahead and start working on bringing up our race winner. Finally, first time winner here in SRN, Seth Berger, after for so long, we've been talking, it's been a long time coming, but Seth Berger does find himself in victory lane and perhaps in the most crucial spot in a possible walk-off situation. Seth, congratulations on the win. How are you feeling with that one?
Oh, I'm so happy. Oh, I don't know if you could tell, but I was screaming when I crossed that line. Oh man, it sucks what happened to Holtzer there. I think he sped on entry there. I would have rather had to race him for the win, but I still had earned this win. It got sketchy there in the last couple laps. They were blocking a little excessively there, but still got the job done, and this makes up for the choke I had at Pocono.
Hey, and the big picture, the moment that's deserved will always come around, and it seems like that moment has come for you, and we're still waiting on getting the official points. It looks like you may very well be good for that Championship 5. I don't want to say that officially or anything, just kind of doing the table math, but it looks like you'll be in a pretty good spot. But either way, it does look like Tank as well going to be sitting in the team championship. So how you feel with possibly running for dual championships next week in Atlanta?
It is awesome. It is. I didn't think there was any chance of. I wasn't really focused on the team championship at all. You run as fast as you can, and it'll work itself out. I really wanted to make this championship round. I just had really bad races. First two races in this round, choked it. And Texas, I struggled at this track, man. 1 and 2 was big question mark for me going into tonight, and luckily I was able to figure it out in practice. And I didn't think there was any chance of a win tonight, but I got it. Yes.
It's like we were saying, sometimes it's those ones that you least expect, and all the chaos that happened around during this race. That was just an unbelievable job, just staying with it and keeping with everything and making up those 12 seconds once you made it out of that final pit stop. But I'm gonna throw it out there. Should you be up in the Championship 5, once we figure that out, how's this next week going to be for you as you get ready to go for that championship in Atlanta?
I don't want to play mind games with myself. I don't want to get too overhyped because it is anyone's game going to Atlanta, especially with this aero package. But I feel good. I love Atlanta. Atlanta's one of my favorite tracks. I love the tire wear there. Not much Cup experience there, so we'll have to figure that out. But if I can figure it out at Texas, I'm confident I can figure it out there. Yeah, man, it's awesome. It's just practice, practice, practice.
Well, hey, I was just saying that, should we confirm that, we'll show it here in a bit. But one thing I can say, you are in the Championship 5. We'll have those official numbers up. So you are running for that championship next week. Before we let you get to Atlanta to be doing that, I'll give you an opportunity to give out any thank yous and mention any sponsors you got.
I just want a huge thank you to LiftWorks. They have helped an extreme amount to the entire tank racing team funding-wise. I'm really proud to support their colors. I work there myself too, so they got good people there. If anyone wants to check them out, they have lift equipment in the Chicagoland area. So yeah, check them out. But I also got to thank Chicago Heights, Star Tool and Die Works, Healthcare Billing Incorporated, Raise Energy, Hunter Don Anesthesia Associates, Butcher Box Teespring, Common Sense, and all my tank teammates. And a huge thanks to all of Burger Nation. I had it on the back of the car today saying thanks to Burger Nation. I just want to show my thanks after the Thanksgiving week. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. I also want to thank the people down in Tennessee. They gave me a great Thanksgiving break. Clearly what I needed helped me get this win tonight, so I want to shout them out. And thank you to everyone at SRN, and thank you guys for announcing and everyone that gets this done.
I appreciate that. And Burger Nation, they are a large group in those YouTube channels every time, and they got a lot to pull for next week as you get ready to run for that championship in Atlanta. Congratulations on the first win and making the Championship 5.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, we will drop him back down into his chat there. Okay, well, again, this is all going to be unofficial until all the race admins and everything take a look at it and be sure all the points are right and all that fun stuff. But let's go through the 5 that we have currently going into the championship race next week. Let's start off with Dalton Tucker. Dalton Tucker's still the points leader out there, and he is in for Revved Racing.
Hey, on a night with all of that happened in those last 40 laps, the best thing to be is the guy that we didn't mention all night. And Dalton Tucker had that edge, had a nice quiet race, kept everything in control. That's a well-deserved Championship 5 appearance there for the man in the 73.
Well, Reese Schaefer had a pretty good night coming in second place, and he will also come in second place in the points going into the championship race.
A huge race for him, and he's been one of those better young drivers that we've seen all year, new to SRN, has a tremendous run all season long, was in contention to win that first race of the season in Daytona, and kind of put everybody on notice, and he carried that all season long, and looking forward to see what he can do in Atlanta.
Well, you just heard from this guy. Seth Berger for Tank Racing is in as well, so second tank driver in the championship.
Absolute huge clutch walk-off performance tonight to make his way in and actually move up into the third spot. Obviously, they're all going to be running. Whoever finishes first gets the title next week, but unbelievable job from him in a clutch moment. Love the emotion that you heard from him there once he knew what was going on.
Well, here's the problem. When you have teammates in the championship, it can get a little bit messy, so let's make it messier. Joshua Balliet from Tank Racing is your fourth driver in the championship.
Unbelievable run from Tank, and they came into this possibly being on the outside looking in for that team championship. They had a monster night and suddenly see themselves with not just 2 but 3 drivers making their way into that top 5. Huge night for Tank, and unbelievable seasons for them, continuing in a strong way.
And finally, even with being out of the race, he had acquired as many points as he possibly could in those first 2 races of this round. Scott Healy, the defending champion, is your final racer in the championship.
And man, oh man, is that a scary sight for everybody else in that Championship 5. You got somebody that knows what it takes to win at the end of the season and win the championship in the process. He's in that Championship 5. That's going to be something that is going to be a nervy situation for those other 4 drivers all looking for their first title.
So how close was it? Here are the final standings based on what we have right now. Holtzer missing it by 7 spots after blowing pit road. Timothy Latham blew pit road twice, and he was only a few points outside the cut as well. So just a massive mix-up here.
Unbelievable, and it's what we talked about all night long. Just keep the car clean, make no mistakes. It's a long race. This is almost our version of the Coke 600, and that this is the longest race that we had. It was going to be a war of just keeping that mental focus, keeping the attrition away from the car, and keeping damage away from it. And we just saw so many mistakes near the end of the race, and it really bit a lot of guys when it came to making that Championship 5. Unbelievable to think that we won't have a James Holtzer, a Timothy Latham, a Landon Lacey, guys that were just so strong all regular season long, come up short in advancing to that Championship 5. Just unbelievable how this postseason has kind of flipped up some things.
Well, get ready, Brandon, because it all comes down to this. The big finish, 225 at Atlanta Motor Speedway next week at 8 p.m. Central. What do you expect to see?
I don't even know anymore after this race, because the last 40 laps, everything that we knew got completely just lost in the shuffle with all the mistakes that we saw there near the end of that race. And I'm just, man, Atlanta is such a crazy racetrack. It's so much full throttle, or at least almost full throttle all the time around there. It's going to be a lot of drafting, a lot of tight racing. It's going to be even more aggressive than the racing that we saw at Texas, because even less handling centric compared to Texas, with 1 and 2 being how it is here that we saw tonight. It's just going to be a wild one with everything on the line when it comes to individual championship, tier 2, the team championship. Oh, by the way, the race, so much on the line next week. This is going to be absolutely incredible, and you do not want to miss it at 8 p.m. Central Time over on YouTube.
Well, not only that, but next week is all championship week as we head there to Atlanta first for the Truck Series for their big finish 135. Man, all 3 series just have 5 drivers that are absolutely insane and ready to go.
It's going to be absolutely amazing. And Atlanta, one of those racetracks that just produces such great racing. And the trucks, I think it's even more so just with the package that they have, the way that those trucks handle, the way that track is. I think this could be the show stealer of the week for sure. That Truck Series running in Atlanta for that championship.
Well, do not miss it. Do not miss these races this week, because if tonight is any indication, it is just going to be awesome. But the way to win the championship every single time you race, the easiest way to get it done is simply this: go faster.